Yedi nefesha v'rachman, Yedi nefesha v'rachman, Meishachav decha, El ratzonecha, Meishachav decha, Yadadadadada, El ratzonecha. Nefesha v'rachman, Yedi nefesha v'rachman, Meishachav decha, El ratzonecha, Meishachav decha, Yadadadadada, El ratzonecha, Yarutz al decha, Ishtachale yaradai, yaradadadadai mu hadarcha. Yedi nefesha v'rachman, Yedi nefesha v'rachman, Meishachav decha, El ratzonecha, Meishachav decha, Yadadadadadai, El ratzonecha.
Good Shabbos. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for joining us this evening, and I thank Yuda for bringing us in with Yedi Nefesh. Yedi Nefesh is a poem, a meditation, and the theme of the poem is that each one of us having a soul, that soul yearns for contact with God. The innermost essence of what you and I are has a longing to reach out to the source of all creation, the source beyond everything limited in the reality of our universe. That's your soul. And that's what Yedi Nefesh is talking about. And you can understand the connection, therefore, within the service between the Yedi Nefesh and the Shalom Aleichem. We'll be singing the Shalom Aleichem, welcoming angels in a moment, symbolically messengers from up on high. If you have the siddur, it's on page number 5, Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlochim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Mi melech, malachei hamlochim, hakadosh baruch hu. Baruchuni l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Mi melech malachei hamlochim hakadosh baruch hu. Tzedchem l'shalom malachei hashalom malachei elyon. Mi melech malachei hamlochim hakadosh baruch hu. Now the angels are here and they are about to leave, but we're saying, wait, angels, not yet, because you have to join us in song. L'chuna Ranana, it's on page number 11 if you have the Siddur, Lev Shalem. And it means, come on, let's all sing together. And as the angels are leaving your house and the shul and going on to the next house, they're overhearing our singing about being together for Shabbos. We're on page number 11. Lechu neranena ladonai naria letzur yishenu nekadma fana bitora bizmiro naria lo nekadma fana bitora bizmiro naria lo kiel gadol Adonai umelech gadol al Kol Elohim asher beyado mechkarei haaretz v'toaf otarim lo. The English on page 12. If only you would listen today to God's voice and not become hard-hearted like the people at Merivah, like that time at Massah in the desert. When your ancestors tried me and tested me, though they had seen what I had wrought. For 40 years I was troubled by that generation, and I said, these are a people whose hearts have gone astray. They do not know my way. So in anger I swore they would not enter my rest. This psalm, the opening psalm for Kabbalat Shabbat, is reminding us to learn from the errors in judgment of our ancestors. And actually, let's go one step further. Let each and every one of us see himself or herself as an ancestor. And the descendants behind us in time are looking to us as role models. And as we learn from the errors in judgment of our ancestors, so may we polish ourselves that our descendants learn from us as well. And every Shabbat we're reminded to not be hard-hearted. On page number 15 on the English side. Adonai reigns, let the earth be glad, the many distant lands rejoice. Clouds and thick darkness surround the divine, righteousness and justice secure God's throne. Fire goes before God, consuming besiegers round about. Flashes of lightning illumine the Lord. The earth watches and trembles. Mountains melt like wax at the approach of Adonai, at the approach of the Master of all the earth. The heavens tell of God's righteousness, and all the nations see God's glory. Those who love Adonai hate evil. God protects the lives of the faithful, saving them from the hands of the sinful. God, as source of judgment and righteousness, is praised by nature itself and also described as being within close contact of you and me. Light is sown for the righteous and joy for the upright. The psalmist promising that you and I have illumination from God that changes us within our spirit. Rejoice in Adonai, you righteous people, and thank God as you pronounce the divine holy name. And now, Craig is going to join us with Romamu. It's on page number 20, Romamu.
Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu.
Sing to God, and the entire world is holy. Look at this psalm which Craig just joined with us in singing. Exalt Adonai our God and bow down at God's holy mountain, for Adonai our God is holy. And when you and I sing about God, when you and I bring God into our awareness, wherever we are, we're establishing our own place as a place of holiness, following the message of this psalm, which is why we're now going to sing along with Craig the song that many of us know, Holy Ground.
Every second, every minute, every hour, every day, everything, everyone, every place, every way, where you walk, where you stand, where you love, where you praise, all of life is holy ground. Every he, every she, every what, every who, it's in her, it's in them, it's in me, it's in you. In the bitter, in the sweet, in the calm, in the storm, all of life is holy ground. So walk as if it's holy ground. Breathe as if it's all around. Talk and make a holy sound. Take your shoes off, you're on holy ground. When you hurt, when you heal, when you laugh, when you pray, when you hold, when you keep, when you give it away, every second, every minute, every hour, every day, all of life is holy ground. So walk as if it's holy ground. Breathe as if it's all around. Talk and make a holy sound. We take our shoes off, we're on holy ground. We are one people, one story, one tapestry we weave, one journey, one glory, one legacy we leave. Every second, every minute, every hour, every day, everything, everyone, every place, every way, where you walk, where you stand, where you love, where you praise. All of life is holy ground. Can you feel the holy ground? Take your shoes off. You're on holy ground.
L'Charudei on page 23, the opening two stanzas, page 25, the concluding two stanzas. Lecha dodi likrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nikabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, hishmianu el hamiyuchad. Adonai echad u'shmo echad. L'shem oltif eret velit hila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nikabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, ki mekor habracha, merosh mikedem nesucha, sof ma'aseh b'machashava techila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nikabela. Page 25, Yamin, and in a moment, if able to rise for the Bowie, you're asked to do so facing the doorway in your own home in the last stanza. Yamin usmol tifrotzi, v'et Adonai ta'aritzi, al yad ish ben partzi, v'nismecha v'nagila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nikabela. Bo'i v'shalom ateret balach, gam b'simcha u'v'tzahala, toch emunei am sigula. Bo'i chala, lecha dodi likrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nikabela. Please remain standing in a moment going to the Borchu, but first, near the end of the Psalm for Shabbat on page 28. The third stanza up from the bottom of the page, the third, the second, and the first. Those three stanzas on the English side on 28. As my enemies gather against me, my gaze remains steady, for my ears listen and hear. The righteous flourish like the date palm, thrive like a cedar in Lebanon. Planted in the house of Adonai, they flourish in our God's courtyards. In old age, they remain fruitful, still fresh and bountiful, proclaiming Adonai is upright, my rock in whom there is no flaw. The siddur is reminding us that there's no limit to the power that you and I have when you and I are devoted to righteousness. That never runs out, even in old age. The siddur, which is quoting the Psalms, is confident in your and my ability to withstand enemies, cruel and disheartened and disheartening and hostile people. So let's hold on to that confidence that comes to us from the Psalm for Shabbat. And now remaining standing, Borchu is on page 39a. Baruch hu et Adonai hamavorach. Baruch Adonai hamavorach leolam vod. We are seated. The first bracha, the first blessing of the Arvi, the evening service on page 39a. Baruch atah Adonai, our God, sovereign of time and space, whose word brings the evening dusk, whose wisdom opens the gates of dawn, whose understanding changes the day's division, whose will sets the succession of seasons and arranges the stars in their places in the sky, who creates day and night, who rolls light before darkness and darkness from light, who makes day pass into night, who distinguishes day from night. Adonai Tzvaot is your name. Living and ever-present God, may your rule be with us forever and ever. Baruch atah Adonai, who brings each evening's dusk. El chai b'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu olam v'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'ma'ariv aravim. On page 40, ahavat olam. Ahavat is the same as the first word in the name of our shul, ahavat or ahavas, which means the love of. Ahavas chesed, the name of our shul, the love of doing kindness. Ahavat olam, the love of the universe. Craig joins us.
Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael, Amecha ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadeta, Al kein Adonai Eloheinu, B'shochbeinu v'kumeinu, Nasiach bechukecha, V'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, U'v'mitzvotecha, Le'olam
Preparing for the Shema in a moment on page 41. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol miodecha v'hayu ha'devarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavacha hayom al levavecha Vishinantam levanecha, vidibarta bam, beshivtecha bebeitecha, ubalektecha vaderech, ubeshachbecha v'kumecha, ukishartam liot al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot beinecha, oktavtam, al mezuzot beitecha uvesharecha. A few moments of silence, or perhaps considering some meditations or the text on page 42. Adonai Elohechem emet. The top of page 44. The little red arrow. Umalchuto beratzon kiblu alehem Moshe u'Miriam u'bnei Yisrael lacha anu shira b'simcha rabba v'yamru chulam mi chamocha poelim Adonai mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh norati lot osef Malchut techa ra'u vanecha bokeh yam lifnei Moshe ze'eli anu v'yamro Adonai yimloch le'olam v'ed v'ne'emar ki fada Adonai et Yaakov u'galom yad chazak mimenu baruch ato Adonai gal Yisrael. On page 45, in the center of the English passage of the Hashkivenu, and I want to just focus on one symbolic element for just a moment. Shelter us in the shadow of your wings. What does that mean as we are approaching nightfall and anticipating going to sleep this evening? That God is extending wings of shelter over us, upon us, around us all. What else extends wings? I think of birds. I think of birds hovering over their fledglings, over the nests and the eggs. Birds hovering in protection of those small offspring that are in such need of protection and of safety. Together, please. Shelter us in the shadow of your wings. For you, God, watch over and deliver us. And you, God, are sovereign, merciful, and compassionate. Ensure our going and coming for life and peace, now and forever. May you spread over us your canopy of peace. Baruch atah Adonai, who spreads the canopy of peace over us, over all the people of Israel, and over Jerusalem. Ufros Aleinu Sukkot Shlomecha, Baruch Atah Adonai, Haporei Sukkot Shalom Aleinu, V'al Kol Amo Yisrael, V'al Yerushalayim. The top of page 46. V'shameru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam barit olam yair beini oven b'nei Yisrael otili olam ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz uvayom hashivi shavat vayinafash uvayom hashivi shavat vayinafash Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba, Amen. Be'alma divrach yoter v'chutei, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon, u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, bagala, bagala, u'v'zman kariv, v'imero, Amen. Yehi shemei Rabba mevarach la'alam li'ol me'el maya yitbarach yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'yitrama v'yinaseh v'yidhadar v'yitale v'yitalal shemei dekudasha brechu le'elam min kol bechata v'shirata tush bechata v'nechem Mata da'amiran ba'alma v'imero. Amen. We rise for the silent Amida, traditionally found on pages 47 through 52, or you might offer your own personal silent prayer at this time. A few moments of silence. The full Kaddish is on page number 54. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba, Amen. Be'alma divrach yoter v'chutei, Amen. Yehei shemei Rabba mevarach la'alam li'ol me'el maya yitbarach Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitparvin v'tzei v'yidadar v'yidaleh v'yidhalal shmei d'kudashah b'rechu le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata damrim v'mavim amen. Titkabel tzloton v'ton d'chois shokadam avun di v'shmai v'imero amen. Yehei shlovar m'shmachem v'imero amen. O seshal m'mamavu yaseh shalom l'ef v'imero amen. Famously, for 3,000 years, we've been known as the people of the book. For 100 generations, we have seen ourselves, and the world all around us has seen us as the purveyors of the living transmitters of words that emerge from the holy source of all experience. You and I are partners in bringing God's word into the world, as were our parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, and all the generations going back to the time of Moses and even further back. And that means that the messages that we share as individual Jews are enduring and are as grand as ourselves, in some way grander than ourselves, and we in some way are grander than the words, because without us the words would not be brought into the world. And that's what it means to study Torah every single week. And this week my thoughts are turning to a very famous text. And every preschooler, perhaps on the planet, knows this text, because this man brought lots of animals, 2 by 2, into a floating zoo, and they floated, and then at the end, everything was great, and the animals came out, and there was a rainbow. And all those are the happy parts. But frankly, I don't teach the text of Noah to our young children, because it's too scary. The world is filled with all manner of violence and corruption, and God destroys everybody except one family. That's a terrifying message. I don't want to share that with preschoolers or kindergartners or even first, second, third, fourth graders. I don't want to tell that story too often to adults, because it's too scary. It's horrifying, especially when just the week before, just last week, God created the world, and God is the source of beauty and all life, and now God destroys it. In the past 2 to 3 months, you and I have seen incredible destruction and suffering along the Louisiana Gulf Coast, in Texas, of course, and elsewhere. But I'm still thinking about the people of Lake Charles, Louisiana. 2 major hurricanes plus other storms in the meantime. And lives have been shattered, lives have been lost, homes obliterated, businesses reduced to nothingness, and people asking as individuals, as families, as communities, shall we live? How shall we live? Will we survive? And how am I to understand the message in this wonderful, loving text, which we call Torah, the Word of God, when right before me I see such anguish, such misery, such despair? What am I to make of this? Where is God? Where is the Creator when we need creativity and uplift and not devastation? And so I turn mentally to the text, which I almost always keep in front of me. And this year I noticed a word which is in the back of my memory, but from now on I'm going to keep it at the front of my memory when I'm teaching and studying and discussing and sharing the Parsha of Noah. At the very beginning of this Parsha, when God describes the evil and therefore the reason for destroying the world, God sees the world as filled with corruption, filled with misery, filled with violence, filled with lawlessness. And it occurs to me that this is the contrast with last week's Parsha, which is Breshit. And in the first Parsha, God fills the world with beauty, with plants, with animals, with elements of the physical world, the heavens and the earth, and every element in its place is called Tov. It's good. Every ingredient brought into the world by God in last week's Torah reading is good and beautiful and reminiscent of life and love, artistry. And people in the next week's Parsha bring everything of meanness and hostility and cruelty and violence and wickedness into the world. Such a huge contrast. What shall we bring into the world in our own lives? That's the question before us. Now I understand just a bit more as to how the destruction by the flood came to be. In my mind, God is asking the question, what are all of you bringing into the world? What are you going to put into my world? You have a choice. And famously, we know that phrase from the end of the book of Devarim. We just read Deuteronomy 4 or 5 weeks ago. But that's why we begin our text anew, and we begin our studies anew, because every year we have to answer new questions as to who we are and how we live our lives. So what are we bringing into the world? And that is as essential to us today and all those who listen to us when we say we are the people of the book, as when those questions were first posed 3,000 years ago. Will we bring cruelty or compassion? Will we bring selfishness or care? Will we bring ego-driven desires to grab and take hold, greed? Or will we bring our opportunity to be generous and to provide people in need all that they desperately yearn for in order to make a life? And when all those questions are answered in the right way, when generations from now, everyone on the planet knows what he or she needs to bring in to make the world full and beautiful, in that day, we will be able to stop reading the Parsha named Noach. But until that time, we'll keep on reading. Shabbat Shalom. Now let's make Kiddush. If you have wine or juice, I hope you join in with us. In the siddur, Lev Shalem, it's on page 55. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pori hagolfen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'yavav ratzon inchilanu zikaron l'maseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila l'mikra kodesh zecher litziat mitzrayim ki vanu v'charta v'yotanu kidashta mikol amim v'shabbat kodshecha b'yahava v'ratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mikadesh haShabbat. I hope you have a piece of challah. Perhaps you can join us for the hamotzi. And at the end of the service, we'll light candles. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. remaining standing on page number 56. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol latet gdula liotze breshit shelo asanu kagoye haratzot velo samanu kimishpachot adama shelo sam chelkenu kahem Vigor aleinu kechol hamonam, vanachnu korim, umishtachavim umodim, lifnei melech, malchei amlochim, hakadosh baruch hu. Shehu note shamayim v'yosed aretz u'moshav yekaro b'shamayim imal u'shchinatu zo b'govei meromim hu Eloheinu eno emetz malkeinu efes ulatom kagatu b'toratom piatat Ayom v'shevota elavavecha ki Adonai hu Elohim b'shamayim imal v'al haaretz mitachot enod. Kakatu b'toratecha, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed, v'ne'emar v'haya Adonai le'melech al kol haaretz, bayom hahu, yihiyeh Adonai echad, O Shema echad. In just a moment, we'll be offering the Mourner's Kaddish. And if you know of someone, if you're remembering a loved one, please mention that person's name at this time. We have a list of the shul members whose yortzites we are marking. And of course, we also extend our thoughts and our love to anyone else who may be suffering loss at this time. Remembering Nathan Weinstein, Grace Levinson, Bella Binder, David Weinberg, Jack Eisenberg, Beverly Zinn, Mrs. Nathan Bela Sobel, Dorothy Fleischer, Sally Berger, Joe Mazel, Sidney Casson, Bonnie Sibley, Bernard Wiener, Marcus Klein, Harris Marshak, Rose Grodsky Bloom Fischler, Edith Wolf, Usher Olinsky, Anna Lappin, Terry Grodsky, Harriet Rips Powers. And now the Kaddish in the Siddur on page number 58. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabba. Amen. Be'olma Divra Chirute v'yamlich Malchute. B'chaye Chon u'v'yomei Chon u'v'chaye T'chol Beit Yisrael Ba'agala u'v'izman Kari v'miru. Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba Mevarach La'olam Ololmei Olmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal Shmei D'Kudisha B'rich Hu La'ela Min Kol Birchata V'shirata Tushbechata V'nechemata Da'amiran Be'olma V'miru. Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya V'chayim Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimeru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimeru. Amen. May all who are in sorrow know that they are loved and cherished, and may hope and peace come forth. We'll be concluding in just a moment with the Adon Olam. This is a melody that we haven't sung in a while. Just a couple reminders. Of course, tomorrow morning, yes, davening, as we usually do so. And then tomorrow night, Alabama virtual Havdalah. And you have the meeting ID and the passcode information. And Monday, no Tanakh, and Tuesday, no Spirit. And that's it for right now. And we'll conclude with Adon Olam.
Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra, Li'et Nasa B'chefzo Kol, Azai Melech, Shemo Nikra. V'acharei kichlot hakol, livado yimloch nora, v'hu haya v'hu hover, v'hu yiyeh b'tifara. V'hu echad v'ein sheni, lehamshilo lehachbira, b'li reshit, b'li tachbit, v'lo ha'oz v'hamisra.
And now if you have candles, I ask you to join us as we light the Shabbat candles. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu l'nir shel Shabbat. O Blessed One, we are made holy by your commandments to bring light and Shabbat into our lives. May you all be blessed with shalom, love, and peace. Until we meet each other again, until we see each other again.